You from the logo, ladies and gentlemen, it is your boy ZZ Huncho, as always, the host of From the Logo on Tuesdays. Today, I am joined by the one and only Gifted Hoops. As you can see, there are two out of the five members of this show. Two of them will be, well, the rest of them will get here when they get here, but two of them are starting off at least, so whatever. How's everybody doing? Gifted, tell the people how you doing. Gifted, can you hear me?
I seem to have an issue hearing things right now, but I'm just gonna try to respond on the fly as I fix things up. First off, hope everyone is doing good. We'll go to another episode of From the Logo. Wouldn't be a regular episode unless I'm, troubleshooting some audio thing. But big shout out to the Boston Celtics. We got a lot in store for today's video as I try to get myself back on. My bad. Oh, I can hear you now. You're
all right,
good.
bet. Hey,
yeah.
All right, great. So tonight, as y'all can see from looking at the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum and how a lot of narratives are starting to get formed based off of Jaylen Brown deservedly winning Eastern Conference Finals MVP after knocking off the Indiana Pacers. So I do want to start off the show by discussing tonight's matchup because Gifted and I believe, both had the T-Wolves coming out of this series. Tank, what's up, brother? I think going into the series, we both had them out. And now the T-Wolves are down 3-0, and me and Gifted are struggling to figure out what the hell went wrong with this team. But Gifted, who you got tonight and why?
Yeah, man. First off, before I get into who I have, I want to say this because this might be something new that people don't understand the concept of. I was wrong. People can be wrong about basketball takes. Yes, I was incorrect. I feel like the Wolves are going to be the better team. And I think what got me is I looked at the roster construction and what every individual piece could do instead of how inconsistent Karl-Anthony Towns and also Anthony Edwards would be for the entire series. I didn't think that every game they'd be great, but I thought that at least one of them would have a good game back and forth. And for two straight games, they did not do that. And then in game 3, Anthony Edwards had a better game, but Cat shot over 8 from 3 and was very, very bad. And I have been a Cat supporter for years now. I feel like he gets overhated, but he absolutely has moments where he looks like a very awful basketball player. And for these 3 straight games, you haven't seen enough from Cat. He was bad in game 1. He had a great fourth quarter. Didn't matter. And Cat were both bad in game 2. And in game 3, that was probably his worst game overall of the series. 0 for 8. Best big man shooter ever goes 0 for 8 in a do or die game 3. So honestly, to me, there's not really much analysis with the series outside of Dallas's defense is very, very good. They pack the paint up a lot on what the Wolves are trying to do. Luka Doncic is putting Jaden McDaniels in jail every single time and is getting to his spots. And the bigs have been very productive in their overall pick and roll set. And then down the stretch, it just feels like Dallas is a lot more calm and poised offensively, which I expected, but I thought the Wolves would have a more consistent effort through 3 games. And so far, we haven't seen that. In terms of who I have tonight, Kyrie Irving is undefeated in closeout games. Maxi Kleber is also coming back. There is no Derek Lively, which makes me very interested in terms of can the Wolves just get 1 game?
Yeah.
And I want to say that they can, but I was wrong about the series. This team can come back. I think they have the talent to come back, but ultimately no team's ever come back from down 3-0. I don't know if this is the first team, and I see no indication from Dallas that Luka and Kyrie are going to perform bad for the rest of the way. So to be honest, I'm leaning Dallas. I think Dallas might beat them in 4 games. I want to say that the Wolves can at least get 1 game, but man, Kyrie Irving is undefeated. I don't think that record gets broken, unfortunately, tonight.
See, I like how Gifted started his analysis because, look, you're prone to get takes wrong. If you look at Player's Choice and you look at how many shows we're going to do throughout the year, there's going to be a lot of bad takes that just age very poorly, right? And usually it comes from Jalen. But at the end of the day,
usually.
Yeah. But I love taking accountability, especially if a team proves me wrong. At the end of the day, it's the playoffs. Me and Get This team is not in the playoffs. So we're looking to find narratives and push agendas. That's all we got left and be entertained. All right. So here's my thing. Yeah. I feel like me saying Minnesota in 7 was in a respectful way to both teams, because I look at that usually when we have a series where you have an experienced team versus a young up and coming team that just happens to be hot at the right time, usually I will lean towards the experience more. In this series, I trusted or believed in Minnesota's defense so much that I looked past the greatness of Luka Doncic and the greatness of Kyrie Irving and what they could do to counter all of that, right? Not to mention the Mavericks defense as well. So I want to say I'm giving flowers across the board to the Dallas Mavericks. Look, I want to see Luka in the NBA Finals. I want to see Kyrie go up against his old team, right? So I don't have a dog in this fight. I thought that one dog was going to have more bite than another one, but unfortunately, this series has shown us the difference between having a team of dogs and a team with a cat on it. It ain't working, all right? So, like Gifted alluded to earlier with Karl-Anthony Towns, I literally said on my other show last week, I said, forget the Celtics, forget the Mavericks, forget the Pacers. I want to see Cat in the NBA Finals. Why? Because Cat was chilling in poverty for eight years.
Poverty, bro. Poverty.
Chilling in poverty. So I was like, if there's one guy besides maybe like Al Horford that deserves a ring, right? Let me see Cat in the Finals. But Dallas had other plans. Look, at the end of the day, when I look at this Minnesota team, I look at the series as a whole, actually. The things that I'm noticing, like Gifted alluded to, especially in the fourth quarter, you see a difference in just one team being calm and collected and the other team still trying to figure it out. Look, we saw Jared Allen last year say, the lights were too big. For Karl-Anthony Towns, like Gifted said, you are a self-proclaimed greatest big man shooter of all time. And when you look at Karl-Anthony Towns, 0 for 8 last game. The game before that, 1 for 5. The game before that, 2 for 9. Talk about from three-point range. The game before that, 1 for 6. The game before, he hasn't hit 3 threes in a game this entire last stretch, even dating back to game 7 and 6 of Denver. So it's a problem. Cat has addressed it. He said, look, I put up 1,500 shots a day. That's cap.
1,500 a day. I feel bad because it's like he's putting in the work, but he's getting on the court and it's just not falling for him,
it's
bro.
Rough. And look, here's the thing too. I've seen players, that have had poor shooting performances, and then D'Angelo Russell last year in the postseason, after the game, putting up shots and recording it, and it's being posted all everywhere, so everybody can see that this player who is struggling shooting the ball is at least putting in the work. However, in the case of Karl-Anthony Towns, it's like, I understand that you have a small sample size of a playoff career outside of this run, right? So I contextualize that when I think about Karl-Anthony Towns' postseason struggles in the past. However, when I look at this unit, right, you looked at Rudy Gobert and all the hate that he got last series for Jokic basically body checking him or bodying him whenever they guarded up one-on-one. Yeah. And then Cat comes in and he's able to be a little bit of a difference maker. Now we start getting some appreciation for Cat, right? And then in this series, Rudy Gobert, the hate gets stronger. But Cat, you would think, would be that, 1B or 2A guy to Anthony Edwards, because it's obviously his team, right? And for Ant being 22 years old, struggling this much is something that, honestly, I'm not completely surprised by, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a lot on this kid's shoulders, being the guy on this team. Karl-Anthony Towns, you have an easy job, right, as playing second fiddle, but you can't knock down your threes. Y'all are cooked. The games that the Timberwolves have lost so far have been relatively close games, right? Yeah. In game 3, it pulled like within the last minute and 50 seconds is where it really pulled away for Minnesota. Prior to that, game 2, they lose by a point. Game 1, they lose by 3 points. So it's one of those tough series where it's not like you're necessarily getting blown out or outmatched or outclassed. You're in it. You just can't finish it. That's the problem. So for me, if Minnesota gets closed out tonight, tough. Learn from it. Karl-Anthony Towns, I think Minnesota's front office is eventually going to start looking at Cat like, do we really want you as the second option next to Anthony Edwards? I'll see that they'll give it a run probably next year if they get swept or what have you. But I think eventually Minnesota's going to look to think, okay, we made all the moves for Rudy. We brought in defense, Cat. Now it's kind of like, we need you to do something. If Ant's struggling, cool. But if you got to at least be trying to carry it away, you got to at least be efficient from shooting the ball. So that's the problems that I think Minnesota is having, but it is what it is. So tonight, like Giff said, are the Timberwolves, do they have enough talent to complete a 3-0 comeback? Sure. Do I think Luka, Doncic, and Kyrie Irving are going to give us a 4-game skid?
No, sir.
Shit the bed. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no,
nah. So, that's tough. Hayes is in the building. I don't know. Hold on, let me see. Hayes is in the building, ladies and gentlemen.
What up, Hayes?
What's going on, fam?
Perfect timing, bro. Me and Gitta just gave our takes for not only tonight's game and what we think is going to happen, but our outlook on this series so far. So let me know what you think tonight, Minnesota or Dallas, who you got and why, and give me your overall thoughts on the series so far.
I mean, I just don't expect Minnesota not at least to get a game in here. Like I expect them to get at least one game in here. Like as close as the first two games were, at times how they look good in game 3. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to get game 4. I'm not saying they're going to push it to 7 or make it anything interesting like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get a win today. They're going to come out with a lot of heart. They're going to be coming out with something to prove. And this overall, you asked for overall thoughts on the series. I'll say this. This is why you typically don't expect a young team, led by a young player like Anthony Edwards, to achieve a lot in their first run, right? Like they just came up against a team with Luka Doncic playing like absolutely the best player in the series, Kyrie Irving, and then the role players of the Dallas Mavericks have absolutely outplayed the role players of the Minnesota Timberwolves every step of the way. And you got to give credit for that, for what that is. But this is something that the Minnesota Timberwolves need to learn from, and they're going to be here again. They're going to be one of those teams that I think is going to be at the precipice of making the Western Conference Finals for the next 2-3 years, whatever. They're going to have some things they need to work on and improve, absolutely. But love the way that they played majorly through this playoff period. How they competed against the Denver Nuggets was inspired. They just, between Karl-Anthony Towns fading away back to being Karl-Anthony Towns at times, and not shooting the ball effectively in some of these games, it's just been a perfect storm of them just not being able to overcome what the Dallas Mavericks have been bringing towards it, man.
Hey, man, well said, man. Listen, man, it's been so hard for me because this postseason, first off, all season long, right? My preseason pick in terms of who was going to be in the finals out west, before seeing any basketball, I assumed it was going to be Denver. I did. I wasn't sure if Minnesota was going to match up with Denver. I thought that there were other teams in the West that could possibly beat exactly what that team would be. But then once I saw them come into form, and once I saw how the bracket played itself out, I said, okay, Minnesota all season long has shown that they match up well with whatever the Denver Nuggets like to do. They're the only team in the league where Denver plays them, and Denver is not the bigger team. It's them. And I feel like, okay, because of that, they have a shot. I said the X factor for that series, which I'm pretty sure on this podcast, I said to you guys, right? Karl-Anthony Towns was going to be the X factor of the Denver series. And what happened? In a game 7, when you needed it in most, Anthony Edwards shot 6 for 24. Karl-Anthony Towns held down the fort. He's the reason they didn't get blown out in the game. His defense, like, he was a positive winning basketball player for that series. He was. So to go from that Karl-Anthony Towns to this one that can't throw a rock into the Grand Canyon, I mean, dude, 0 for 8 in the last game is just ridiculous. He's shooting 27% from the field, 13% from 3. Like, those are god-awful numbers. And I hate it so much for him because people are going to use this series to say, see, this is why you can't trust Cat. And I can't be mad at them because this is the most important series. But in terms of his overall postseason, he hasn't been bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they don't have Cat this year, they don't go as far as they did. But at the same time, You need a number 2 to be a number 2. The problem is Anthony Edwards is young. I said this 2 games ago. You cannot win a playoff series where your best offensive player, Hayes, and your second offensive player are performing that badly offensively. You just can't do it, especially against a Dallas team, which I might have glazed over this, but I said coming in, Luka was going to be the best player, right? Mm-hmm. Clearly, his injury is not impacting him like it did versus Oklahoma City, who also guarded him better with a more overall physically demanding presence in Lu Dort, right? They don't have that here. So to me, it's like with this information and also Kyrie, how he's been good in the series, he looks way more comfortable in this series than he did versus OKC. It's presenting them different challenges. And the fact that in all 3 of these games, I can pinpoint moments where it's like young team, it's bad. Like the Jaden McDaniels pass under the basket in the fourth quarter, which led to the PJ Washington 3. Literally, that play decided a game, right? The Karl-Anthony Towns pull-up 3 late out of nowhere in the last game pretty much decided game 3, right? Like there's so many plays where it's like, damn, if y'all just tighten up for this one little spot or this run, you could have won this game. And for 3 games, it's been winnable. And that's not me saying Dallas got lucky. No, Dallas earned those games. Dallas absolutely has been the better team. That's me highlighting that the difference is Dallas has 2 guys who are more reliable closers than what we've seen from Minnesota. And that is the difference. What makes a better team is, okay, it doesn't matter how close it is, right? Denver played LA close all postseason long. But what happened? In the second halves, in the fourth quarters, they ran away because they were the better team. And that is what I've seen from this Dallas Maverick team.
I mean, if you ask Jalen, he said that the Lakers had the different nuggets figured out. So I'm never letting him live that down. The pettiness in me will never let him live it down. Shout out to Jalen, by the way. Question to you guys, I want to throw to you guys on this one. I know what you just said, and this is not to say that he's been terrible. Some people will try to act like he has been. He hasn't been terrible this whole playoffs. That's just ridiculous to say. But considering Naz Reid, considering the Rudy Gobert, considering the Karl-Anthony Towns, the questions that are already surrounding that, do you think they do something with one of those players this offseason after seeing them fall short in the Western Conference Finals? Or do you think they try to run it back with some improvements next year and then maybe ultimately make that decision the season afterwards?
So I'm taking emotion out of it, Hayes, right? Mm-hmm. Karl-Anthony Towns is making supermax money.
Yep.
So realistically, if you can trade Cat, you should aim to do it. But it's all about opportunity cost. Sure, we trade Cat, but are we getting a good enough package? Are we really going to say that Naz Reid is going to be the full-time replacement? Because Naz Reid has outplayed Cat all series long. I 100% agree. But in terms of a regular season load, Naz Reid's best value is I can give you starter production off the bench, which elevates the entire team. So if you're elevating him into that role, you now need other pieces that complement this team at a high price. So to me, you need star production to replace Karl-Anthony Towns. And what makes it so hard for me is, again, they do not beat Denver without the size. Trading Cat, most likely you're not going to find another big who's also a star that's available in the market. You're probably going to go, smaller. I've heard people say they should trade Cat maybe for Trae Young, which sounds great, but you lack the size. And the size was the biggest thing that made this team stand apart from LA, Denver, OKC, all these other teams. The size and the defense is what made them different. So I'm not sure how realistic that is, but you would be a fool to not look at the market and see what it is. Because once Cat has 1 year on this contract, the tail end, year by year by year, it's going to be harder to move off of him.
Exactly. Yeah. That was the thing I noticed too, was because I was interested in your question, Hayes, because I literally asked Gifted that low key before you hopped on, which was I think that Minnesota is going to get to a point potentially, because I think that they're going to run it back next year. Say they get swept tonight, they're going to run it back next year. But being that Karl-Anthony Towns is slated to make $49 million this year,
the Lord, man,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like it's a tough bond, and I had completely forgot that they had locked Cat up until 2028. So and they did that. He signed his extension, was it July 6, 2022. So they didn't had this locked up for a long time. Like, we believe in you. You're the franchise. We're gonna put the franchise tag, if you will, on you and whatever. But my thing is that I told Gift a second ago, I can't look at Karl-Anthony Towns, his postseason career as a whole, right, without contextualizing it and being like, okay, you had a small sample size of playoff success prior to this year, prior to Ant even becoming, the emerging budding superstar that he's becoming. So in that time span, you've had what? You just had a bunch of mishaps. We're literally in purgatory as a franchise for years. So this is the first time that you've been to a conference finals, and now the lights are getting a little bit brighter and brighter each round. And you notice Karl-Anthony Towns just took a big time nosedive in this conference final, something that I wasn't even expecting, right? Because I looked at Minnesota and I said, okay, as a team, I looked at them after beating Denver and I think to myself, how are they not all bought into this, right? You just beat the defending champions. You just came back down 20 in a game 7.
7 games at their house. You beat Denver 3 times on the road.
Exactly. So it's like you have so much that if I'm Coach Finch and I'm in the locker room, you have so much that you could throw at these guys to put in their heads and be like, look what you just did. Now go out here and now you got to deal with Dallas, right? And to get this point about, he said it earlier about Luka Doncic. Look, we knew Luka was dealing with an injury going into this series, right? And when you looked at last series, I've said it before, no matter if the Mavericks won or not, SGA was the best player in that series. But I could say, oh, well, Luka was hurt. Or I can also say, look at how OKC was defending Luka while he was hurt, right? Because Luka's just been laboring the injury. And then we talked about it on the panel yesterday, I think. The difference between the way that the Mavericks defense is playing Anthony Edwards compared to, they're doing the same thing they did to SGA. The only difference is SGA is butter from the mid-range. That's the difference, right? I'm looking at the defensive schemes and I'm saying to myself, if this is SGA, he's still gonna end up with 30. He gonna get to his spots. He's gonna find a way to get to the rim. Like, it is what it is. Anthony Edwards does not have that mid range as patented as it should be. So
it's not like Shea.
It's not like Shea.
No,
but you saw the potential like in the earlier parts of the year. I remember he like the first 3 weeks and was hitting fadeaway middies and step back. And I was just like, oh, okay, he added that to his bag. But
shoot, in the postseason, he's also done the volume.
Exactly.
The difference between Shea and Ant is Shea has dedicated counters. That's his game. Mm-hmm. He wants to get to the basket. If you take that away from him, he's not going to spam off balance threes. He's getting to his spots. And more than likely, the way Dallas guards, they're packing the paint. You're going to get threes. The mid-range is going to be open. If the mid-range is open, Shea is going to dominate, and that's what Shea did. Anthony Edwards is a good mid-range shooter, but even his scoring aggression, I mean, y'all have seen it. It hasn't been what it was.
Yep. And that's the craziest part to me is that, like, so if I'm looking at this from the front office standpoint of like, okay, we gave all those picks away for Rudy Gobert, and we're seeing the fruits of the labor this season finally of it somewhat paying off, right? If you're the front office and y'all get swept, you're gonna think to yourself, look, man, we got enough talent. We know that. We got enough talent to make a deep postseason run. We know that. We have enough talent to be able to counter whatever the perennial favorite is going into next season, which will probably be the Denver Nuggets coming out of the West, right? So they give enough answers to counter that. Now all it is just, okay, our 2-star guys that are our main offensive players. Anthony Edwards is 22. I just said it. He's 22. So, of course, he's going to have some slip-ups in his first big postseason run, right? Karl-Anthony Towns, on the other hand, brother, it's been almost 10 years you've been in the league, my dog. So, if Ant isn't getting it done, you can point it to like, okay, he's 22. So if he's taking too many shots or if he's playing a little bit too reckless, fine. He's like a little puppy. But Cat, dog, you done said you're the best shooter. You said you're the best big man shooter of all time. You got PJ Washington guarding you. Somebody's comment earlier. Where's that? Cat is 6'11", but mentally 6'2". That's what I see because you got PJ Washington guarding you, and I'm expecting you to at least show me some post moves, get to the paint, give me a little hook shot, show me the footwork, whatever, body check them, do whatever you got to do as the bigger guy. But
airball and floaters at that height is bro.
Airball and floaters and going
over no way.
3. It's tough. And I love Cat. Don't get me wrong, I love Cat, but it is tough for me to look at him and be like, yo, you got to change your game up. You can't allow, like, because PJ is basically guarding you saying, okay, bro, do you think you can shoot or you think you Steph Curry? Fine. I know you ain't coming in the paint for God knows what reason. So my job is easy. But so it's basically a matter of, to answer your question, they are literally going to run this back right next year. Mm-hmm. And they're going to have that faith again in Anthony Edwards to potentially get better if they make another deep postseason run, numbers wise, efficiency wise, whatever. But Cat too, bro, we're paying you $50 million next year, bro. And what? Show us why we're paying you this money, basically. So it's tough, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they find themselves in an interesting place because I do think that there's a high scenario, and if they should probably run it back and take a look at a year of development with Ant and things like that. But they're gonna have to start asking themselves the tough questions, because when it comes to the Supermax contract, you may have to take a look at what you can get back for it. So
yeah, it's tough. But I do want to transition into another like semi topic, because I don't know if we've discussed this. I don't know if y'all discussed it like maybe on a panel at some point or the last show I missed, but Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, the narrative of them being the best offensive backcourt in NBA history is slowly picking up more and more steam by week. So my question to y'all is, what are y'all's initial thoughts, right? Because let me break it down to you before y'all go. Let me tell you how I'm looking at it. I understand why the argument is there. Let's just start there, right? In terms of their skill sets alone, I see why the argument's there. The first thought that I had because I think I saw it on First Take when they were talking about it, but my first initial thought was Stephen Clay, Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas. You know, my mind starts going to the winners of the backcourt. So because that's how I'm looking at it. I understand how great they are as a duo. Their skill set is virtually unmatched. But it don't mean a damn thing if you don't win with that duo. Because I can make the same argument for Kyrie Irving and James Harden back when they were on Brooklyn together, right? From their skill sets alone and what they can do with the ball. They ain't win shit. So that's like, I can't, you know what I'm saying? Like I can't do that. So with Luka and Kyrie potentially about to be in the NBA Finals, they have an opportunity. Like I'm not saying that's totally out of the realm of question for that to be the case, but they have an opportunity to put that offense on display on the biggest stage. When that happens, if they're able to get some hardware off of that, then I will 100% entertain that conversation. But want to get y'all's thoughts on it.
So the conversation you said was based on duo or guard backcourt?
Just backcourt. Greatest, I think it was greatest offensive backcourt. Chat, help me out if you know what the bite is, but I think it's greatest offensive backcourt ever. I think that's what it is.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure because I saw on Twitter people saying duo, and I started laughing when I saw that because that couldn't be further from the truth in terms of just duo. Yeah. Backcourt is pretty interesting. You have the Brooklyn Nets, James Harden, Kyrie. I understand Luka is a far better player than James Harden, but just in terms of what they were able to generate as an offense together, that's up there. I would probably take Dallas over them. You have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson at their peak.
Yeah.
And to me, Klay Thompson is a severely more limited player than Kyrie, but in terms of what those two did off the ball to generate offense, I mean, that's just, that like those two are the pillars to what Golden State's offense was. Yep. And it was so electrifying. It made other players in the system better because of them. So you could argue that they're better, but I do think in terms of players, prime Steph is right there with Luka. And I think prime Kyrie's better than Klay Thompson. So like, if you want to say individually, they're better, sure. But I think in terms of both of them consistently generating offense for the entire team, Steph and Klay are up there.
Yeah. Gifted, what you think?
We don't look alike. Yeah, we don't all look alike.
My bad, bro.
We don't look alike.
But I think it's hard to say, like, they're a great backcourt, make no mistake about it. But there's something about the sustained success over time and what Steph and Klay were able to do. It's going to take a long time before I'm willing to put Luka and Kyrie up there. Now, if you're just talking about what they're doing this offseason, I mean, it's hard to not put this as a single postseason run up there with anybody. Like, it's just hard to do, hard not to do. But I still think Klay and Steph, what they were able to do together, how defenses had to guard them, how consistent they both were as well, and how much they complemented each other naturally. We saw Luka and Kyrie have to figure it out. And, maybe that's not necessarily a knock, but it is something like Steph and Klay were just such a perfect duo together for so long that it's hard for me to put Luka and Kyrie up there right now when we really have seen one season where they didn't make the postseason, a partial season, and then this season where they look absolutely amazing together. But let's also wait to see what they do in the finals. That's what I'll say is that as well. So, and one thing that I think is underrated as well because of the era, and this is where it gets difficult in eras, but if you're talking about ability to score, I think at some point we also have to look at Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, but they played in an era where it wasn't that much scoring. But I think them as a scoring backcourt for that era and what they were able to do too, you got to start looking at them a little bit also. So
yeah, that's my thing too, because me saying Steph and Klay coming to my mind first was a part bias, obviously, but at the same time, it's like I watched that offense I watched that backcourt tear the league up, right? So when I think back to Prime Curry and Prime Klay, it's like Prime Klay was giving you 37 and a quarter on no misses, right? And Steph is sitting here feeding off of that and feeding into it, assisting and however you want to call it. Prime Klay Thompson's 14 threes in a game, 11 threes in a game 6. Steph Curry, 13 threes in the game, literally broke the record before Klay broke his record. Like, that's how dominant they were shooting.
And they're not taking turns. They're running off of each other every single play.
Exactly. And it's like when both of them were, I remember the days just when both of them were on the court, it was a matter of, I mean, dude, if your main focal point is Steph Curry and keeping your head on a swivel, wondering where he is, running off of screens, the fact that Klay Thompson's right there with that Hall of Fame catch and shoot, quick release, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just they were just special. But I will say for Luke, I liked Kyrie's response to it, which was him basically giving respect and praise to the prior best backcourts or however they want to call it in the rankings, and him understanding at the same time it doesn't mean anything without a ring. I thought back immediately to the 2016 Warriors, probably around March or April, maybe April, right after they had won that 73rd game. And the discourse around them was, okay, is this the best team of all time? Little did they know Kevin Durant was coming. But is this the best team of all time? Why are they saying that? Because you saw the graphics during that years. They compared 2016 Steph to Michael Jordan, literally, numbers matching and all that shit. And then you get doing the Bulls graphic of 1995, 1996, and then the discourse was, okay, they're on pace to be the best team ever, best offense ever, yada yada yada. But you heard Scottie Pippen when he got the question asked, he said, "Look, 73-9 is cool, but it don't mean nothing without a ring." 2 months later, they blow it 3-1. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
yeah.
And we know, like from our generation, we know what that team was and what they represented, how good they were when everybody was healthy. But at the same time, it don't mean nothing without a ring. That's how I've always looked at it. So when we start having these conversations about backcourts, if you are going to be looked at as the greatest offensive backcourt, you cannot be looked at in that way unless you got the hardware to prove it. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those tough situations. But like Hayes said, I think that they can crack it, but I don't think that they're gonna need to win back to back or something like that for me to really be together for a while for me to really look at them the same way I look at Steph and Klay. But it is what it is. So let's move forward. Did we talk about the Celtics and the Pacers?
We have not yet.
All right. So before we get into the main topic of the video, which is JP versus JT, let me just say this, bro. The Indiana Pacers, what I saw in that 4-game stretch, I kid you not, was the best offense and the worst offense I've ever seen in my life. And both. It's so weird. It's so weird. But like I remember when I said it out loud during the end of game 4, I was like, dude, the Pacers should not realistically, but they should hypothetically be up at least 2-1 in this series if a couple of plays go their way on their end. It's not a situation where you looked at like the Pacers in the Knicks series where it's like, oh, the referee, like Tyrese Maxey got hit and he didn't call it. It's none of that. It's Halliburton dribbling the ball off his leg, Pascal, the inbound pass to Pascal, right? Boneheaded play, and after boneheaded play by Nembhard or Neesmith, however you want to, like, just so many. It's where I'm looking at this team and I'm like, dude, okay, going into the series, I said if there's any team that can, shoot with the Celtics in terms of 3-point shots or get offense up really, really fast, it's the Pacers, right? The issue is they play so fast and at times out of control. Like they just dribble the ball as fast as they can half court and not know what the hell they're planning to do with the ball in the half court. It's weird. But I just like so that's what pissed me off a little bit about the Celtics was because I was like, dude, y'all should have beat them. How the hell you beat the Warriors on a random Sunday at 3 p.m. by 50 in the regular season? But you winning games against the Pacers by a 0.4 differential. Like what? This is a team, mind you, no Tyrese Halliburton in the last 2 games, and they still were relatively good games. I'm like, you got
Andrew Nembhard was cooking.
Andrew Nembhard was cooking. You got TJ McConnell cooking. I'm just like, yo. And meanwhile, the Celtics are head and shoulders. I get they don't have Kristaps Porzingis, but damn, look at who else they got compared to the Indiana Pacers. So that was my struggle. I just watched Game 4. I was pissed off. I was like, I knew the Celtics were going to win. I said Celtics in 5, but damn, I was expecting like multiple blowouts in this series from the Celtics. I didn't get that. So I don't know. But looking at Indiana, they pissed me off, bro. I tried to be a fan. I tried. But at one point, I literally remember saying to myself, look, it's levels to this shit, bro. Like, for as much as the Celtics drop games, the Indiana Pacers are transition merchants, bro. That's funny as hell. That's literally what they are. They look fast. They look like Showtime Lakers, but in reality, they're JV Lakers. It's not the same thing. So, give me y'all's thoughts on the series. I know y'all had Celtics winning it, but just give me your thoughts overall.
I'll let Hayes go first. You go ahead.
I mean, listen, this was one of those series that the Pacers had some hope, but we all knew the way that this series was going to go as soon as the Pacers made it. Like, it is what it is. I look at this as like this was the bigger question I have in this is not the Pacers, because the Pacers fully healthy team. I do think Tyrese Halliburton was held back some about the injury, but at the end of the day, he wasn't good when he played, and then he missed a bunch of games, so that kind of is what it is. It worked out the way that it was going to work out. But the Celtics in this overall, in this whole playoffs, is just like the ease in which they've made it to the finals.
Ooh.
Like, they didn't have a challenge the whole way through. Like, and it's just like, and don't get me wrong, when you're 14 games above the next team behind you in your conference, you're going to have the expectations of making the finals in your conference. Like, you should have came out. Congrats, you did what you were supposed to do. Yeah, you got a little bit of help along the way. The fact that every single team you faced was missing their best player at points in the series when you played against them. And it just ultimately comes down to, now you're the Pacers, you got to take care of business in the finals, because I tell you what, if you look like dog shit in the finals, your whole season looks fraudulent to me. The whole entire season.
So I had a tweet, man. I don't know how to say this. Rick Carlisle is the Russell Westbrook of head coach. And like, that's not all of this, people, right? Like, Russ at his best, right? He could push the pace. He was a high risk, high reward guy. He can have 8 turnovers, but he'll give you 13 assists. He'll generate very, very good looks, or he'll throw the ball into the 6th row, right? Like, that's what Russ did at his best. It was chaotic overall energy. You couldn't control it, but at the same time, no one could keep up with it. And that's Rick Carlisle. And to me, the thing about the Pacers that goes unchecked, like, they're not transition merchants. I know it looks like that because they run all the time, but I literally have the stats in front of me also. Eye test backs us up too, because they can make ridiculous shots. I mean, we literally saw them shoot 76% from the floor, 77% from 3 versus a Knicks defense in the first half. But overall for the playoffs, I want you to guess what their points per possession were of any team in the playoffs. I just want y'all to guess. Is it 5? Is it 6? Just their overall points per possession for the playoffs. I want you to guess real quick.
$3.5. I don't know.
Well, I'll say this. Like, okay. Sorry. Ranking, as in, like, were they first? Were they third? Were they fifth?
Okay.
Yeah.
Whole playoffs. Shit. First wouldn't surprise me, honestly. Would not surprise me.
You got first, Ace?
Yeah, first. I'll go first.
Yeah, they're first. They average 123 points per possession. That is number one in the playoffs. Now, this is the specific stat in the half court. Where do you think they rank in terms of points per play in the half court set?
Okay.
Half court only. No transition.
Dead last.
You got dead last. How about you?
I'll go last as well.
They are number 2. They generate 105 points per play in the half court.
Man, I must be even wonder then when I'm watching these games, because good Lord, I swear to God, I ain't never been mad at a half court set. But
And the reason behind this is what Indiana does so well is once they get into the half court, they make decisions quickly. There isn't time to like dribble. They get up and down quickly. So they generate a ton of good looks early. The problem with this team is when it gets critical, they have had moments in the fourth quarter where their offense is vanishing because those same dumb shots that they take sometimes throughout the game don't always fall the same way, especially against a Boston defense that still has Drew Holiday, who played out of his mind in this entire series, Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. But they have, for the entire playoffs, been good on both of those sides. That's how explosive their offense is. And keep in mind, this is a team that wasn't fully realized because there was no Benedict Mathurin, who only would have been a positive contributor, and they still made it all the way here. Year one, trading for Siakam at the deadline. I understand there were injuries for sure, but that offense was the most viable offense damn near of the playoffs. That's how good they were. And they're only going to keep building off of those. Again, TJ McConnell earned him some money. How many games did we watch this postseason where you saw TJ damn, he coming in, controlling pace, getting downhill, passing, he got everyone involved. Even Miles Turner, who's been literally on the block for 5 years now, played a phenomenal postseason as well. Tyrese Halliburton isn't even all the way himself, and even he had really strong moments too. But even Andrew Nembhard, right? This is another guy that they basically said, we're going to put our trust in you. And Nembhard performed at a high level. So this Pacers team is very, very fun. And it shows you the genius of Carlisle offensively. But if there's any big takeaway for that crew, it's defensively. You got to figure this shit out, though.
Oh, yeah.
Got to figure it out.
Teflon. It's not that we think that Indiana's trash on offense. I literally just said they can hang
the offense is
shooting the ball wise. However, when it comes to fourth quarter execution and keeping a fucking lead, I saw idiots on the court. I saw not Nembhard.
You definitely saw CTE. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's I didn't see Nembhard, I saw Nimbusals. That's what it was. It's not even and here's the thing. I hyped up the Pacers offense going into the series, thinking that they could at least get a game off of it. Granted, Tyrese Halliburton got hurt for the last two, but even still in game one, which they should have won, had they won it, they would have won it if they didn't, because they had the game. Look at my hands. They had the game right here. And then they just let it fumble away on their own. So for as great as their offense is, executing in the clutch just seemed to just go out of the window in this series, I guess. But it is what it is. Love their offense, though. Love their offense.
I got the defense. And listen, I got defense numbers too.
Okay, let me hear it. Let's go.
The defense has got to be god awful.
Okay. So listen. Out of a 16-team ranking, where do you think their defense ranked this postseason in terms of points per possession this year in the playoffs?
Allowed? Possessions allowed?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Dead last.
Out of 16, 22nd.
So they rank 15th. They gave up 120 points per possession defensively overall. Now, I did half court for offense. Okay. Let's do half court for defense. How many points per play do you think they gave up in terms of ranking? Again, there's only 16 teams in the playoffs. Where do you think they ranked in the half court?
God,
16th.
14th. I'm being generous.
They ranked 16th, man. 102.5 points per possession. That's how crazy. Listen, this is the most Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde ass team I've ever seen. Because on offense, they're one of the best teams in the association.
It's always
their defense was that awful.
Yeah, the defense just got awful, trash.
So let me ask y'all this question: What could the Pacers
Sure.
do to fix this issue? Because look, from an offensive standpoint, they got talent. They got guys that can score. But from the defensive side of the ball, it's like, all right, look, who are we really like leaning on to carry that load? I don't even know. Miles Turner, what do they need to do in order to improve, or who do they need to move off of in order to improve, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's weird because Indiana isn't top heavy in terms of like the designated guys that they want to score, right? Because their offense is built around like everyone touches the ball, everyone gets rhythm, everyone can dribble, everyone can shoot. Like it's equal opportunity for everyone, which to me empowers the entire team. Mm-hmm. But defensively, they got to find a way to make the energy from offense translate to defense. They have moments where they play solid enough defense, but they just don't have enough players that are known for being defensive aces. They don't have that all throughout the roster. Bringing in guys who just have the reputation for being involved defensively, something can trickle down. I think Pascal is a right step with that, even though even his defense to me sometimes can get overrated, but you just need more wings who can move their feet and, play with heart on that end. Because offensively, everyone's going to get involved. It's just bringing the energy from that side of the ball to defense should be their biggest priority to me.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Honestly, I mean, it is a tough situation to try and figure out what exactly they need to do, or what would be that one big piece or a couple pieces that would help kind of establish or give them more of an identity on the defensive side of the ball. But I mean, they're fun to watch on offense, so that's something. That's what they got going for them. But whatever. All right, so Hayes dipped out right before we were about to get into it. The title of the show, but for at least we still got the chat. So whatever. Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, as you can see from the title of the video.
I hate Twitter, bro.
I hate Twitter too. But here it is. Here it is. So Jaylen Brown won Eastern Conference Finals MVP the other night, averaging, I want to say it was 30 a game on 52% shooting and like 5 rebounds, something like that. Great series for Jaylen Brown. Great series. Yeah. Much deserved. So I don't know if you saw it might have been like a week ago, but it was when I think it was after the Celtics either won game 2 or game 3, but Kendrick Perkins went on live television and said that Jaylen Brown was the best player on the Celtics. And the thing that pisses me off the most about the comment, even though I don't necessarily agree with it per se, but the thing that pisses me off the most is this: why does this always? Why can you just feel like when this is about to happen? We're like, NBA media is looking at one game, a game in a series in which everybody knew the Celtics were the superior team and going to eventually come out with the W. After one game, he said Jaylen Brown's the best player on the Celtics. And to be honest with you, I think it's just to stir up shit, just because they don't really have, much engaging content other when Perk speaks usually. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, I feel like y'all just sat in the little writers' room before the show, and somebody was like, all right, it's Hot Take Wednesday, and then Kendrick Perkins, well, I think Jaylen Brown is a better player than Jayson Tatum. And the whole room laughs, but Perk's being serious. And he's like, well, did you see what he did last night? Never mind the fact that Tatum is not only can score as well as Jaylen Brown, can rebound better, can facilitate better, and you can make an argument. If you want Jaylen Brown's defense, I won't mind it personally. I think that they're both kind of the same.
I would mind it. I wouldn't mind it.
I wouldn't mind Jaylen
Tatum's a better defender. I don't understand that.
There it is. I would say Jayson Tatum too, but I've seen Jaylen Brown be able to play some lockdown defense.
Oh yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? I know why people would say that, but I still take Tatum as the overall better player. And it's not even a knock to Jaylen Brown at the end of the day, and it might just be their roles, I guess. I don't know, but like, how often do you see Jaylen Brown facilitating, right? How often do you see Jaylen Brown crashing the boards? How often do you see Jaylen Brown taking on the toughest defensive assignment? It's every once in a while. So we're gonna have to disagree. Brown been the best Celtics player this season. Just because he made 300 mil. Just because he made 300. Just because he made 300 mil. I feel it.
I gotta be so honest with this whole conversation, man. It's very frustrating to me, a huge part of why people say Jaylen Brown is better is because Tatum has moments where he shoots Stewart dates. And I get that. Like, you want to see Tatum not settle as much, right? Brown, while he does also chuck shots at times, he's more of a downhill bully ball type of guy. Tatum can be prone to not use his strengths all the way. But at the end of the day, collectively, what Tatum does to impact the game, he's one of the most versatile stars we've seen in the NBA. His defense, in terms of off-ball awareness on the ball, very, very good. The rebounding from him, critical. He's improved a lot in that regard as well. But more than anything, his playmaking. The playmaking jump we've seen from Jayson Tatum from 2022 to now has been dramatic. The plays he was making all throughout this series in the postseason have been dramatic. To say that Jaylen Brown has been better than Tatum all year long, when at the start of the year, Jaylen Brown was struggling terribly because he didn't know how to fit in with Porzingis. Post-trade deadline, Brown did become their best point of attack defender. So I do want to give Brown a lot of credit on that end. His defense finally got back to where I said it needed to be. Because my biggest thing with this whole Tatum Brown conversation is I should not be able to say Derek White, Jayson Tatum, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, and Kristaps, right? I should not say out of that starting five, there's a chance that Jaylen Brown is the most inconsistent defensive player. I shouldn't be able to say that. And at the start of the year, I could say that. By the end, I couldn't say that anymore. And that speaks volumes to how much improvement we've seen from Brown. But realistically, no, bro, he's not better. Now, did he win the Eastern Conference thing? Yes, he did. Tatum averaged 30, 10, and 6 for the series. He should have won it. But shout out to Jaylen Brown. Like, that's really good that he got some type of accolade with his name since, obviously he didn't make any All-NBA team. I just don't understand these real talks. If Jaylen Brown had to be the number one option on another team, that team would be significantly worse. And there's a lot of things that point to that. Jaylen Brown can shine in his role when everything around him, there's space all over the place. There's great defenders all over the place. And he's not asked to be the primary playmaker on a night-to-night basis. He has Derek White and Tatum and even Drew Holiday in spots to take that pressure away from him. Yep. That's not me shitting on Jaylen Brown, because nowadays you can't say one statement without saying another. No, I'm not shitting on Jaylen Brown if I'm saying Jayson Tatum's the better basketball player. I'm not. The reason why people feel the way they do about Jayson Tatum is they think he has another gear to grow to, and he has most moments where he doesn't do it, where he's taking post fades over Darius Garland. Right? Those are the plays that like really stand out to people. But in terms of an overall player, Tatum is and has been the better basketball player. That shouldn't really be a real conversation. That's a conversation that's laid for trolls and people who don't watch basketball to have. That's not a real combo.
Yeah, and like my thing is, I think it's something that's hilarious to me, because I'm like, you look at Jayson Tatum, who is the more complete basketball player? Shit, half people that's hating on Tatum are the same ones that will praise LeBron in a GOAT debate for being the all-around better player than a certain bald head motherfucker. Like, it's different how we just switch it up, because okay, maybe you just don't like Tatum like that, and now that Jaylen Brown has went out there and got himself some hardware, which, like I said, deservedly so. I think both of them had an opportunity, had an argument to win it. But I sat back and I was like, okay, hell yeah, JB. Shit, they ain't put you on no All NBA first team, second. Like, hell yeah, go do your thing. You did ball out. Don't get me wrong, but don't get it twisted at the same time. This man is not better than Jayson Tatum. Now, we have an opportunity to see these two in the finals, right? Jayson Tatum is coming. I said this from the start of the postseason, not knowing how easy the Celtics would have, path-wise to the finals. But I said Jayson Tatum is going to be looking to go on a revenge tour, if you will. If they make it back to the finals, Jayson Tatum is looking to right every wrong that he broke in the 2022 NBA final, not 2022 NBA postseason alone. Good Lord. So Tatum is looking at this like an opportunity to remind people of how good he is. And for those who make comments that say, I hate when people say this about Tatum too. He's had help ever since he got there. Or look at the team that he got. Did he pick to go to Boston? Like Like Kevin Durant.
No, he got drafted to Boston, bro.
Exactly. So it's like,
I don't get those points.
You know what I'm saying? Kevin Durant literally was in Brooklyn and said, Kevin Durant was in Brooklyn and said, I want to go to Phoenix, right? A season after they had made the finals. Because I like what they got going on over there. I got a D book over there. And at the time of Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. But like Jayson Tatum did not say to Danny Ainge or Brad Stevens or whoever, yeah, please draft me because I see that y'all have Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart and Horford and Jay Crowder. No, bro. Like, stop.
He didn't even want to go to Boston. He wanted to go to the Suns, and they traded the pick to make like you know. So they got Tatum. Like, I don't understand.
It's like it's. I'm sorry, but now we criticizing players for getting drafted to organizations that they ain't even have a say in. I'm not hearing that, bro. I'm not hearing that.
I mean, but ZZ, the reason why this happens though, and people have to be honest. People like, and by the way, this is the truth about Tatum as a player.
Yeah.
Tatum has not consistently proven that he can be relied upon as the number one option on a championship team. He's proven it during the regular season. He's played there, but even when you evaluate the best of the best, he's not on the same tier as a Jokic. He's not on the same tier as a Luka. He's not on the same tier as a Giannis. The only reason why people would even argue Joel Embiid is because of his injuries and how he's performed in the postseason. But despite that, in terms of like the player Joel Embiid is, even he's a better player than Jayson Tatum, right? Like Tatum has not etched himself into that conversation, and he's been in multiple spots where, damn, he has all this talent, but they don't seem to get over the hump. And part of that is on Tatum and Brown as players. Yeah. They're building this core around Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown to go and get it done. They made the moves that they made this offseason, which, by the way, I literally spent like 2 hours. I made like a whole video this morning breaking through like how they got from back then to what it is now. They literally flipped Marcus Smart and Robert Williams for Drew Holiday All-Star and Kristaps Porzingis All-Star caliber at times player. These moves were not made to make the finals. So I do not care about how easy their role was. Regardless, we said the Boston was probably the best team in the league during the regular season. We also said Boston was the best team in the East. So to me, Boston getting out of the East was already my prediction. It got easier, sure. I don't care. Because they didn't make the moves to make the finals. They made the moves to win the finals. So these talks about how good Jayson Tatum is, how good Brown is. Here's my thing. Even if you want to be completely delusional and think that Jaylen Brown is a better player than Tatum, all you're telling me is another reason why Boston should win a title. So if Tatum has a stinker, I'm expecting Jaylen Brown to be their best player. If you're saying that, right?
That's the thing that they don't want to say that though, because
they
don't want to say that though, and that's I thank you, Gifted, for bringing that up, because that's how I started to look at it. Because I was like, how the hell do we go from a 2 to 3 year stretch where we're looking at Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown as an up and coming duo, and everybody's saying how much potential they have and how great they are, and yada yada yada, and then we get to a point where now we're putting them against each other, and they're on a team that was 14 games better than the second team in the Eastern Conference.
14 games better.
14 games better. But now it's a matter of, Jaylen Brown's better. No, Jayson Tatum's better. How about this? They are a dynamic duo for a reason. So like Gifted just said, if we get to the finals and Tatum shits the bed, I'm expecting Jaylen Brown to show me Eastern Conference Finals Jaylen Brown, or vice versa. If Jaylen Brown shits the bed, I'm expecting Jayson Tatum to show me Eastern Conference Finals Jayson Tatum.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So, if you have a duo, I think about it like this too. There's been instances like in the 2022 finals, right?
Yeah.
Steph, Clay, and Draymond. Going throughout that entire postseason run, the one thing that I kept hearing round by round was that championship, gold-blooded, championship pedigree that they have. That's the one thing I kept hearing about how they're the winningest trio in NBA playoff history. All of these things, right? And we get to the NBA Finals. Draymond did not have a good NBA Finals. Clay had a pretty NBA Finals.
It was really Andrew Wiggins.
And Andrew Wiggins played that stepped up to a role that got him, second in Finals MVP voting at the end of it. Even though everybody knew it was going to go to Steph, but why he got them Finals MVP votes, right? Clay and Steph are a duo, right? Splash Brothers. Clay, Steph, and Dre are a trio. One person out of that trio played better and ended up literally carrying the other two, right? Mm-hmm. So there is no, you know what I'm saying? There's instances where if you want to put someone against someone, whoever's showing up the most consistently is 9 times out of 10 going to be looked at as the better player. In the situation for Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they are in a situation where you have Derek White, a returning Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, right? You still a 37-year-old Al Horford, he's still useful. Like, you have so many other options to make up how great this team is. Joe Mazzulla at the helm, all of that. So this situation where, you know, if the Celtics were to lose in the finals, then we're going to really have to start having some conversations. And if they were to lose based off of one of the big two or two of them both not showing up, then we can really have a conversation. But at the end of the day, it's like, can we stop putting these people against each other? You want to know something that's crazy? They put Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown against each other, but we sitting here talking about Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving as the greatest offensive backcourt of all time.
And they're not putting them,
they ain't putting them against each other. Why is that? Why is that? Oh, because Kyrie is zen now and peace and found his peace and all that shit.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
Bro. Like, if you're gonna do that to Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, do the same thing to Luka and Kyrie. Shit. Let's start having the conversations of where would the Mavericks be without Luka, or where would the Mavericks be without Kyrie? Then we can really start getting nasty for no reason. Or you know what I'm saying? Like, or we can look at it for what it is and say, this is a great duo, right? Both of them feed off of each other. Both of them pick up areas where others may not, right? Kyrie Irving's playmaking, which has gotten significantly better throughout this postseason. Sometimes if it's not there, Luka will pick up that slack. For Tatum and Brown, right? Tatum's going, okay, we need boards. I got you. We need playmaking. I got you. Jaylen Brown, we need a bucket. I got you. They pick off of each other. That's what good duos do. So let's please stop trying to put duos against each other for, you know, if he was on his team, if he had his own team, or he was the number one. No, bro.
Yeah, it's not real basketball talk. Like I feel like people just do that to spread narrative, which is fine. But again, I think if you are a Boston fan, you generally do not care. You do not care about all these talks. Yeah. What you are concerned about is at the end of the day, it don't matter who wins. Win the NBA championship.
Exactly.
Because I'll tell you this right now, right? Like, people keep asking, can Boston guard Luka? No one can guard Luka. Luka is going to perform at his level, right? It's not even about Jayson Tatum being better than Luka. It's about Jayson Tatum being Jayson Tatum and being consistent. If Tatum and Brown consistently perform at their levels with the team that they have, they should be able to beat Boston. They should be able to beat Dallas, point blank, period. If Tatum is underperforming and Brown is also not great, and it alternates every game, that will be enough to lose to the Dallas Mavericks. It's not about stopping Luka or being better than Luka. It's about being your best self consistently through and through. That's the question for Boston. When they've lost in the past to the Heat or even to Golden State, ZZ, what happened? Tatum underperformed under what his standard was. Jaylen Brown, towards the end of that series, underperformed to what his standard was against the Heat. Tatum struggled. Brown for the entire series struggled. Game 7, awful Game 7. Could not go left anything. 6 turnovers for Jaylen Brown when Jayson Tatum was a decoy in that game, right? When you think about Boston underperforming, the reason why people felt so iffy about them, even though they won so many games during the regular season, is they showed you glimpses of bad habits where it's like, damn, we're not getting good shots. We're just throwing things up there. We're not controlling the pace and the fingerprint of the game, right? With Luka and Kyrie, they controlled the pace and the fingerprint of the game. They've done it for the entire postseason. So this is an ultimate matchup of all matchups to me, because if Boston is able to make their threes, Tatum does not settle. He uses his size and length to impact the game on both ends. Jaylen Brown does the same, getting out in transition, pushing pace for them. That's the yin and yang between both teams.
Exactly.
So I'm worried about Boston being the team they said they were, about Boston being the team that you did all these great things for an offense standpoint. It's got to pay off. I'm worried about that, not who's better between Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Those are elementary conversations for the most part.
Yeah, it's like, look, it's all fun and games when we comparing Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but it's even going to be more fun and games and funnier if, like, the Celtics win the championship and Derek White wins Finals MVP. Because then what y'all gonna say? Who y'all gonna pick then? Like,
I'm not gonna say Derek White the best player. So
yeah,
I don't care about that. Yeah,
it's like yo, like that could happen. Like it very well could happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, say Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are not necessarily too underwhelming, but like mid, and Derek White is lighting it up from three. I could totally see a situation where they would look at that and say Finals MVP him, right? It is what it is. But y'all, like, Twitter would be in a frenzy if that happened, because now you don't know who to pick. If you're Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown, then there's that middle part that's Derek White. So, you know, it is what it is. But I will say the discourse amongst the Celtics for the criticism that the Celtics get, shit, I've thrown it to them throughout the regular season. Even in that game 4, there was I think they started off the game pretty good from 3, and then they went on a stretch where they were like 3 or 4 of 16, and it was like in the second half they just kept jacking and missing. So for me, when I look at the Celtics, it's like all of the things that me and you have pointed out before, or other panelists have pointed out before, about how they settle or play down to the level of their competition, right? At least within the last 5 years. That's something that still has not necessarily been cleaned up to the fullest extent that it could be. In the regular season alone, the fact that they were a 60-win team, the fact that there was such a big gap between them and the second seed, it looks good. But at the end of the day, you look at this Pacers series, there's moments where the Celtics play down to the level of competition or settle for threes and yada, yada, yada. So if they match up with the Dallas Mavericks, and it's a situation where you're going up against a poised offense ran by Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, and then we start getting into the nitty-gritty. Say the game is close, right? Get to going into the fourth quarter, right?
Yep.
Based off of what you've seen from the postseason so far, chat, I'm gonna ask y'all too, which duo would y'all be more comfortable with in the fourth quarter? Tatum and Brown or Luka and Kyrie? You see what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's how this series could go. That's what could be the differentiating factors in this series. Is if the game is close to the first 3 quarters and we start getting to the nitty-gritty of the fourth, will the Celtics start overly relying on threes again? Are
they going to blitz? Are they going to let Al Horford get killed on the island for the entire game?
Exactly.
Probably not. You know, like
that's why I'm so interested in seeing a series like this, right?
Agreed.
Them not, like, if they were to go up against the Timberwolves, right, in hypothetical world, if they went up against the Timberwolves, that defense would be something that I would want to see Boston counter. But the one thing that I looked at Boston all year and I was like, the one thing I can't give them credit for is, like, they're not like a high turnover team or anything like that, like the Pacers were in that final game, or was it game 3? They had like 20 some turnovers. It was bad. But when I look at the Celtics, it's like they don't have issues from like a keeping the ball perspective. They have an issue with like either keeping the lead or keeping their foot on the gas and not taking it off. Like those are their issues. Well constructed team, but in terms of them losing themselves throughout a game, that can still happen. So hopefully they clean that up, right? You know, hopefully they get like a week and a half off or something like that before the finals gets here. So they're gonna have time to sit and reflect, and Joe Mazzulla is gonna watch film and tell them what they need to do. But it's all about execution at the end of the day. So, you know, we shall see. But yeah. So I'm glad that we were able to get that out of the way. I'm mad Hayes wasn't here for it, or Dub or Jalen, but it is what it is.
Low management. L hosts.
Low management, brother. So I mean, honestly, that was all that I really had on my list for today. But you got anything else throughout the NBA world that's been, you know?
I guess the JJ Redick thing is getting more serious now.
True. Yep.
He is seemingly going to be the head coach of the Lakers again, and we got to see it. But that's the thing. Trae Young's been doing this weird thing where like he's focusing on like moves teams made to help their star player win more games. It's coming off as like passive aggressive. Like maybe he didn't want them to trade for DeJounte Murray. I don't know. It's weird. I don't like basketball gossip, but that's the thing. And his name is being included in a lot of talks, especially because the Hawks have that number 1 pick. You know what I'm saying? But nah, honestly, outside of that, not much, man. We're simply awaiting the biggest NBA finals we've had in quite some time, where I win either way for me, because I would love to see Al Horford get a championship.
Yeah.
He played the 3rd most games of anybody. It's crazy that he's still playing damn near 40 years old. I would love to see old man Al secure his legacy. I would love to see Drew Holiday get another title. I would love to see Jayson Tatum like show me that he can be the number one player on a title team. Yep. But at the same time, for Dallas, bro, Luka, like already having a Hall of Fame career where you're first team All NBA year after year after year after year, and then you cement all of that with the championship where no one thought you would. Like every round, for the most part, you were a underdog. Like you got to give them a ton of credit. I would love to see Luka really cement his greatness. That would be fun for me to watch. And then for Kyrie, even though, and I refuse to pivot off of this because I still believe it, even though I think that Kyrie is overrated in terms of the way that he's talked about, Kyrie Irving is a good player. And there were people that tried to ask him to leave the league or like retire after the off the, court stuff. And the fact that he's bounced back in a situation and is the first of Harden or Kyrie off that Nets team. Like, bro, if I told you Kyrie Irving is going to be in the finals 2 years from now, Kevin Durant and Harden will be first round exits, you wouldn't believe me, right? So like seeing his career flip and what he has a chance to do, where they said I could not win without LeBron James, I got traded to another situation and I won. That would be great for Kyrie. So I can't lose no which way you put it. And at the same time, we're getting good hoops. It's going to be good basketball, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Look, for me, as y'all know, me and Gifted are both Warriors fans. So like I said at the start of the show, like this whole postseason has been nothing but me looking to push agendas. And I'm looking at every single angle. Like, I swear to God, I have nothing else better to do with my time besides watch this great entertaining playoff basketball. But at the same time, I'm sitting there saying as a content creator, like, yo, look, I'm trying to push the Luka Doncic greatest Maverick of all time agenda. If he were to win a championship, I'll be right on course. I'll be right on course. I'll be right on course. Look, all these, if you ask me, all Luka Doncic is missing from becoming the greatest Maverick of all time is a championship and an MVP. And considering that he led the league in scoring this year, a lot of people think he got robbed. I'd say that in the next 2 to 3 years, he's probably going to be looking at it, especially if he gets a ring, because at that point, it's like, okay, the conversation goes away of can Luka Doncic lead you to a championship? Because it would.
He's done it now.
You know what I'm saying?
All those songs are dead. Yeah.
All those songs are dead. And I am a firm believer that when it comes to player narratives, especially the ones that are pushed by the media, as soon as they win a championship, that kind of goes away for them. It's weird too. I don't know if you've noticed, but like the parity in the league within the last 6 seasons, right?
So much parity, bro.
So much parity. There's been a new champion from 2019, Kawhi. 2020, the Lakers. 2021, Giannis. 2022, Steph and the Warriors. 2023, the Nuggets. So now we get an opportunity to see potentially Luka win his first and Kyrie win his second, and Kyrie going up against his old team, right? Albeit, I ain't gonna sit here and try to like cap for Celtics Kyrie, but it didn't go as they had a pretty rocky ending, right?
Yeah, true.
Boston fans being racist to Kyrie Irving. And every time he walks back in there for regular season,
and then you got the fact that Porzingis was on the Mavericks and couldn't win, and they said it's clear he can't be a winning player. Yes,
this is great. This is literally cinema. Y'all should be rejoicing in this. Everybody, think about it. We have the potential to see Kyrie against his old team in the finals, and Kristaps against his old team in the finals. Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are trying to kill narratives about them being a duo and can they be enough to win you a championship. Al Horford about to get a ring potentially. And then you got Luka Doncic right here, sitting here, waiting for his opportunity to show us how, because he's been great in the postseason for his career, but an opportunity to see Luka in the finals, that's literally going to be white Michael Jordan just going.
And then Derek Lively rookie year having some of the biggest impacts we've seen from any rookie player this far. Like, bro, that would be a hell of a way for him to start his career as a pro. First year, we won the title, and I wasn't riding the bench. I played like significant minutes off that bench for this team, and they needed me to win. That'd be great for him.
Yeah. So I'm all here. I'm here for it. Look, and Jason Kidd and the Mavericks. I mean, for him to be a player, was it 13 years ago, the last time the Mavericks won the championship, and to be able to
win a title, another
bro.
angle, bro.
Clip this right here.
Another angle.
Clip it. Y'all, look, clip it, put it all, post it everywhere. Look, this Boston versus Dallas has the potential to be absolute cinema, like from all angles. You have so many storylines, and I'm gonna be pushing so many agendas depending on who wins. But it is what it is. Look, I think that's all I got for today. Gifted. If you have anything else, feel free to let the people know.
Same. That's all I got. Gonna be a very good game. Make sure to tap into playback for the conversation tonight. I'm not sure who's hosting it, but someone should be hosting it on Player's Choice. Also for me, I'm back into my content creation back. I spent some time getting some things prepared. Make sure to tap into my stuff. All of my socials are below right here. YouTube at Gifted Hoops. I did drop the video on the Celtics and what a championship would mean for them this year. So go tap in with that. More content will come after this game. I'm praying that they don't get swept and they maybe make it interesting, but we'll see, man. We got some good hoops coming up for sure. So lock in with us.
For sure. As always, it's been a great Tuesday. Love it. From the logo coming at you every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Sundays on playback starting at 1. And I will say, I was a little nervous to do the playback on Sundays at first, but we got some heads over there. Everybody be over there. Well, like
it's working out. It's working out pretty good on Sundays.
Appreciate y'all for coming through with us on Sundays and kicking it with us. Continue to do so. You can find me as always as ZZ Huncho pretty much on everything, especially on TikTok, is where you'll see the majority of my content.
Yes, sir.
I will be tapping back into that area of my content after tonight's game. Once I figure out exactly who is in the finals, I'll give my finals predictions, little hilarious commentary, however you want to call it. It's all good vibes on my page. But this has been great. Shout out to Hayes, Jalen, Dub. We missed y'all two today, but hopefully we'll have y'all back on Thursday. Chat, you have been great. Love each and every single one of y'all. Thank y'all for kicking it with us. And tap into the game. Tune into the game. If you're watching this after we go live, tell us what happened in the comments from what you saw in the game. But great stream. Love y'all.
Absolutely, y'all. Peace out. Have a good one.
Y'all have a good one. Catch y'all Thursday.